The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, slipped under the door like a quiet accusation. It claimed that a drone had been flown illegally over the neighborhood the previous weekend, violating HOA rules on aerial surveillance. The board had already decided who was responsible. The fine was addressed to Mark Reynolds, a retired Air Force veteran who lived alone at the end of the cul-de-sac. Mark read the letter twice, then smiled thinly. He didn't own a drone, had never flown one. In fact, he'd spent 30 years enforcing airspace discipline, not breaking it. Still, the HOA's notice was firm. A $750 fine? Mandatory compliance meeting. Threats of escalating penalties if he didn't admit fault. At the meeting, the board president pointed at him as if the case were closed. A neighbor had seen a drone take off near Mark's driveway. Another board member added that Mark knew aviation and therefore was the obvious culprit. The room murmured in agreement. Mark waited until they finished. Then he stood up and calmly asked a question. "Did anyone here check FAA registration records?" The room went quiet. He explained patiently that under federal law, most drones must be registered with the Federal Aviation Administration. Flights are governed by strict rules, altitude limits, line-of-sight requirements, and airspace classifications. HOAs, he added, could regulate takeoff and landing from common areas, but they could not assign blame for airspace violations without evidence, nor override federal authority. The board looked annoyed. One member said HOA rules were stricter than federal ones. That's when Mark pulled out a folder. Inside were printed FAA regulations, highlighted and annotated. There was also a public FAA registration lookup showing that the only registered drone operator in the neighborhood lived 3 streets over and had posted drone videos of the community, pawned on social media the same day as the alleged violation. Time-stamped, geotagged. Mark finished with one final point: falsely accusing someone of a federal aviation violation could itself invite legal trouble. The board recessed for 10 minutes. When they returned, the fine was withdrawn. The letter was labeled "issued in error." No apology was offered, but none was needed. The message was clear. The HOA quietly updated its drone policy the following week, adding a line about federal jurisdiction and evidence requirements. Mark walked home under a wide, empty sky. After a lifetime of defending rules that actually mattered, it felt good to see the right ones finally land.